All right, good evening. We are going to call the meeting to order. Thank you for your patience. We had some IT difficulties and now we're ready to go. So we will start, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I have a report of reportable action taken in closed session. During the closed session, the board acted to authorize the district superintendent or designee to notify one or more temporary certificated employees presented in closed session pursuant to Education Code section 44954 that they will be released at the end of the 2016-2017 school year. Which brings us to C3, statements of abstention. Anybody? C4, adjustments to the agenda. C5, board member requests for information. Director Pugh.
Excuse me, getting over a cold. I've been requesting a scattergram, demographic scattergram enrollment report, and I would like to get it at some point. I think I've asked for it now 3 or 4 times, and it would be nice if I could get it. And you could probably find it in the old agendas. Go back about 4 years. In the month of September, October, there's probably something there, and I don't have access to the old agendas, but I would like to see that sometime. Or know why I can't see it.
I think you just had to satisfy the old 4th time's a charm axiom. Good job. You've done it. Okay.
Yes, we'll bring those forward.
Approval of the minutes of the special board meeting held April 19th, 2017.
I'll move them.
Second.
Moved by Director Christoph, seconded by Director Anderson. Roll call vote.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
A motion carries. And C7, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held April 26, 2017.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Director Christoph, second by Director Anderson. Roll call vote.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, and that brings us to C8, the Student of the Month Award. I figure that a lot of you here are here for that tonight. So I'll tell you that most years, board presidents don't do Students of the Month, but I took it as a point of presidential privilege to say, I want to do Students of the Month, because every director will tell you that this is the best thing to do on the school board. Okay, so it's on. Thank you. We will start with Marbella Flores from James Monroe Elementary School. No one at Monroe Elementary School was surprised when Marbella Flores was selected as this year's Santa Rosa City School Board Student of the Month from James Monroe. Everyone who knows her can only nod their heads in agreement. Marbella began attending school at Monroe Elementary when she was in kindergarten. Her family moved then to Mexico, and she returned to Monroe in 3rd grade. She has been an exceptional student from the start. She started out as a high-achieving kindergarten student, despite her limited English proficiency status at the time, and now has flourished into an extraordinary 6th grade English proficient student. All of the testing scores have remained at or above grade level, and she received nearly straight A's on her most recent report cards. Her 4th grade teacher has stated, Marabella is not only an outstanding student, but is a great role model for her peers. She works hard and takes pride in everything she does. She has a bright future, and she will be successful in whatever she chooses for her career. Her 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Winovich, said, Marabella is always seeking to be challenged and does extra work. She is a model student in all that she does. She is able to quickly understand concepts and apply that knowledge. She is greatly admired and respected by her peers. She does not belittle others or brag about her achievements. She likes to be happy and works hard not to get dragged into the drama of the other 6th grade girls. That is a good skill. In class, she loves math, which is her favorite subject because she is good at it, but she also enjoys writing when she has the opportunity to write about herself. At Monroe, we know Marabella will succeed in whatever she decides to do in life. She is the wonderful example of her sister who is currently attending Berkeley. That is why she is planning on attending Stanford to be a lawyer. That's funny. She's planning to attend Stanford to be a lawyer, to solve problems, or as an accountant. Living at Stanford will give her the opportunity to move away from her family and have new experiences. As a member of the basketball team, she has been able to explore other schools and loves having fun with her friends. Monroe School is proud to recognize Marabella Flores as the Santa Rosa City Schools Student of the Month for May 2017. We know that nobody ended up here by themselves. They have good family behind them, so. Okay, next from Montgomery High School is Braulio Olivares Lopez. Excellent handshake. Okay. Okay. Braulio knows himself well and knows what he wants. As a freshman, he wanted to be a lawyer, and he has driven himself to challenge himself here at Montgomery so that he can go on to law school. He will tell you himself he loves to argue. Braulio is the senior class president at Montgomery High School. He ran for office for the first time last year and has worked tirelessly to make the year a great one for the class of 2017. His enthusiasm and spirit is contagious. I can feel that here, right? Mr. Gibbs, Braulio's avid teacher, states, he has always been one of the most dependable and responsible of my avid students, one of the true leaders in the class. Over the course of high school, he has learned he is a true leader in general and now is a senior class president. He now wants to go into politics. According to Mr. Holmes, English teacher, Braulio is very endearing. He is always friendly, always smiling and positive, and very social. He is a born leader, willing to take charge in any situation. Ms. Reed describes Braulio as an absolute pleasure. Getting to know him and working with him this year in student government, I am sad to see him go, but I know he'll do great things in his life because he has passion and a strong sense of self. Did you know that Braulio has a creative side as well? He is a good guitar player and a lover of music. I believe he's made some YouTube videos of some of his songs. You can all check that out tonight. We are so proud that Braulio is part of the Viking family and congratulate him for being Montgomery High School's Student of the Month for May 2017. Okay. Well, so now we're going to do the parent organization updates, and after that, we'll take a couple-minute break so everybody who's here for these main things can take off. So we will start with Monroe Elementary. Thank you, because I'm logged off here. Montgomery High School? Yes, right there. And if you'll I lost my login on the agenda, so if you'll introduce yourself to everybody, because
This one?
There's a switch to the right side. No, down below. There you go.
Here we go. Can you hear me now? Oh, thank you. That's good. Hi, my name is Vicki Osceola. I am representing Montgomery Education Foundation. I'm the president this year, and we just had our crab feed back in January, and it's a yearly fundraiser, and we raised money to fund technology. We had 3 LK bottled water fill stations, and 3 planter boxes and a greenhouse for our wood shop. And we had a visit from Brian Stowe this year for our anti-bullying campaign. And there's just so many. I'm trying to jot down some stuff. And we funded also some technology, band and choir. They went to their Disneyland trip this year. And drama production went to their yearly Ashland Shakespeare Festival. And they're were able to tour the Southern Oregon University and their Linnea State High School competition, which they always win numerous awards. Also some ceramic tools. That's just a little bit of what Montgomery Education Foundation has done this school year. But I'm also here and talking about the athletic boosters, which also fund a lot of the athletic programs for Montgomery High School. And this year they actually had a speaker from the Positive Coaching Alliance to talk to new incoming freshman parents to make sure that they don't have the pressures at home to these new athletes, to make sure that we always keep everything positive and encourage them. They can, it's, you know, they want to win, but to encourage them that it's not just always about winning, it's also about to keep your self-esteem and to show that you have to work hard and it's not just always about winning. And also the boosters were able to update their wrestling room, and they're now raising money to fund a new batting cage for the softball field. And then Project Grad, I'm also representing them. They're in a meeting tonight, so they couldn't come. But since Project Grad, I guess, started in 1988, and this is their 29th year, and they have not had one fatality. So I thought that was a good point to bring up this year, this month, since graduation is coming up. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for the report. There are a lot of crab feeds to choose from, and the Montgomery High School one is a really good one, so I'll give a plug for that. Okay, next is Robin Smith from Santa Rosa Accelerated Charter.
I haven't been on this side of the podium before. Hi, my name is Robin Swinth, and I wanted to thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight to talk about the Santa Rosa Accelerated Charter School from a parent's point of view. SHREX, that's what we call it, that acronym, is a small school. It's just 5th and 6th graders. There's just 128 students, and it's located actually on the RVMS Middle School campus. The teachers, it's a small school. There's 2 5th grade teachers and 2 6th grade teachers, and they actually focus. The 5th grade teacher, one 5th grade teacher focuses on English, one focuses on math and science, and the same for the 6th grade. So it's a unique school, it's a special school, it's a small school. But what really stands out about our school is the educational opportunity that is available to our students. The teachers value and support developing every child and every child's intellectual potential and curiosity. So this school transforms students. It transforms the way they view themselves and the way they view their education. And I wanted to talk tonight just a little bit about how that happens at SHREX. It happens through the curriculum, through the electives, and the teachers. Of course, at SHREX, there's a strong focus on math and on writing, and the curriculum is accelerated. So by the time those 6th graders get out of school, they are totally ready for 7th grade and have actually seen some 8th grade material. It's by far one of the best writing programs I've ever seen. My kids can write like nobody's business, and so can the other students. So it's just great. But what really stands out about the curriculum is that it's actually differentiated. And that doesn't just mean that they have accelerated classes. It means that in everything they do, they bring novelty, depth, complexity, and acceleration to the topic. It happens across every subject that the students study, and it's very powerful. Novelty means that the students actually have a choice about what they want to explore. Acceleration means that the kids are asked to think about their topics beyond the detail of the topic. They are encouraged to think about how their topic affects power, change, systems, structure, or conflict, those universal themes that we want our kids to be able to think about so they have a higher level of thinking. They think about things in depth. They think about how their subjects impact things or what influence they might have, what kind of, what motivated their topic, something about their topic to change. So they're actually thinking broad and in depth, and they're thinking about complexity. How does their topic change over time? This kind of thinking is brought to everything that is taught at SHREX, and it makes it just an amazing place. It provides a framework for higher level thinking. It makes it easy to make connections across topics and across time, and it makes learning so much more meaningful and interesting than if you're just listening to your teacher talk. From a parent's perspective, what does this look like? It looks like when my kid studies ancient history in 6th grade, she gets to choose a topic that she wants to study in depth, whether that's a historic leader, some cultural aspect, the geography, or the religion that she's studying. She gets to decide how she wants to write about that topic. Will it be a compare and contrast essay, or does she do something creative like a flash from the past? So she has a lot of control about how she dives into the subject. And she uses the big ideas in the curriculum to actually develop a thesis and argue that thesis with evidence and commentary. It's powerful, powerful learning that's happening. The result is that the kids are incredibly engaged at this school. They remember what they've learned, and they're able to actually apply what they've learned to the problems that we deal with in today's world. So when I listen to the radio with my kids, they actually have a broader perspective. It's incredible. SHRACS also develops the students' intellectual potential through their electives. Because we sit on the middle school campus, we actually get quite a bit of synergy, and the kids have band every single day at SHRACS. It normalizes, having band with all your classmates totally normalizes learning something new. It also creates this powerful connection that brings the kids together, something to see. We also have drama and choir. The program is incredibly rich. Perhaps the most important thing that makes this curriculum incredible are the teachers, of course. They see and believe that every student has potential. And they do this they don't just give this lip service, they actually do it in the classroom. To the extent that my kids have come home saying, Mr. Williams thinks so-and-so has potential, and we all have encouraged her and waited for her to show it. So it's the whole class is there supporting kids. They strongly believe that intelligence is not a fixed quantity, that your brain is something you develop and you have a responsibility to do that. They are enthusiastic about their instruction. And just to give you a sampling of what these 5th and 6th graders are doing, my kids have come home analyzing Greek mythology, learning about the Hindu gods, and comparing and contrasting them to the Buddhist gods. They've talked about how geography affects the economics and culture of ancient Egypt. They've designed and built and launched hot air balloons made with tissue paper. They write argumentative essays. They've examined Pocahontas, not only from the historical perspective of the United States, but from her tribe's perspective. They've created living ecosystems and observed how they've changed over time. It just goes on and on. It's an incredible place. I think one thing I wanted to mention is that some of us, because the teachers are so incredible at SHRACS, are quick to attribute SHRACS's uniqueness to the teachers, and indeed the teachers are incredible. But what's so intriguing is that this school is not alone in this kind of curriculum. Entire school districts like Long Beach, Napa, Oceanside have this kind of culture and operation going on for their students. And I think that we have an opportunity to do more of this in our school district. One thing I also wanted to mention was that we actually need a little bit of help in 2 areas for our school. We have had 7 administrators in 7 years at SHRACS. The turnover is high. It causes stress for the teachers, and these administrators are on a perpetual learning curve in terms of understanding who our staff is, what our program's about, and who the families are. So I'm wondering if there's some way that the site council and maybe Jason Leake and some parents can get together to try to find a solution to that. We also have been asking for many years for some kind of outdoor space for some hands-on science. And I think the money is not the issue. The issue is just finding some space where kids could do that outside. And it seems like we should be able to do that. In conclusion, when we applied to SHRACS, it's a lottery process to get into SHRACS. There's only 64 spots, and we were searching for a public education which highly valued learning and thinking. And we weren't alone. Actually, every year there are probably more than 120 families that apply to this school. So you get 62 families get in, and there are more than 60 families that are waitlisted every year. Other families see the value of this kind of education. And it's important to consider for a second what that means. It means the community sees tremendous value in this. They're willing to go through the stress of an application process, the stress of dealing with the lottery, and the stress of potentially uprooting their kids to move schools to get this kind of education. All students in Santa Rosa deserve access to this kind of opportunity. And actually, you yourselves have done some important and worthwhile things in getting us to that place. You've approved the Alps plan. You've put Shreks on the facilities master plan. You have a sense of that. But I actually can see that there's other low-hanging fruit, and I think it's worthwhile thinking about that. I think that we could accelerate professional development for teachers so that this kind of thinking and strategy is available to more students. I think it's also important, and I've written this in a letter to each of you, that we integrate the ALPS plan into the collaborative curriculum development. This is a major opportunity for getting this kind of work out to every student, and it hasn't happened yet. And if we miss it, we've missed the boat on that. I also think that it's worth taking a hard look at what we could learn from other communities that are having success with these strategies. I think there's opportunity here to create, even to work with, to create a task force that is comprised of teachers, business leaders, community activists, parents, students, even partnering with people like teachers at Sonoma State or the JC to look at what other school districts are doing to use these kinds of strategies for retention and for increasing the performance of underperforming students. I think there's something here that's pretty special. So thank you for this opportunity to talk about Shreks. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to me preach a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, so we're going to take just like a 3-minute break, so folks who want to leave can file out, and then we'll come back for public comment on items not on the agenda.
Let's see which way they go.
Okay. We're going to come back to order for public comment. Public comment on non-agenda items. This is a roaring crowd tonight. It's exciting. So we have public comment on items not on the agenda. And to remind everybody, it's opportunity for members of the public to comment on non-agenda items. If you wish to do so, you can follow the example of Ms. Annie Skelly and bring down a blue card. Any of you students here who have something to say on an item that's not on the agenda, right now you can run down and fill out a blue card and tell us what you think. We can't take action on anything you say or engage in discussion on anything that you say. And if what you have to say is a complaint or issue with respect to an employee of the school district, a personnel matter, then we advise you to go through appropriate channels to make that complaint and to not make that here, as it interferes with the investigation process. So with that, right now I have Courtapassi, John up first and only right now. And next will be Annie Skelly.
Good evening. John Courtapassi, Santa Rosa High School. I'd like to start again with the notion or the phrase, actions speak louder than words. Last week, teachers were reminded that we're seen as an afterthought in this district. 2 weeks ago, this board passed a resolution declaring May 1st through 5th as Teacher Appreciation Week, and along with Classified Employee Week, Substitution Appreciation Week, National School Nurses Day, and not to leave out Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I'll remind you, back in September, on the 28th, this board passed a resolution declaring October 9th through 15th School Administrator Week. The administrators not only got a resolution identifying them as an individual group worthy of acknowledgement, but the board also made special presentations to the site administrators on October 26th. And then at the next board meeting, they thanked and did a special recognition to the district office administrators on November 9th. What did the teachers get? Well, let me tell you. Last Friday, May 5th, at 4:58 p.m., 2 hours after the last school day ended and the last day of Teacher Appreciation Week, we were sent an email from the district that was 3 sentences long that most of us did not see until the following Monday, May 6th, saying, "We were appreciated." It was an afterthought. You have an opportunity to do more than speak empty words. You can make real action to demonstrate that you actually value your teachers. Your budget is an indication of your priorities, and where you allocate funds indicates what's most important to you. I urge you to create a budget that starts with the teachers. Set us as a priority, not some new program like Innovate Ed or some high-priced consultants. I'll remind you that we, the teachers, we are also identified in the LCAP. We have more impact on the students than Innovate Ed. We have more impact on the students than high-priced consultants. We make the day-to-day difference in the lives of our students. It's up to you to place the value on the teachers. Make us a priority. Make it feasible for us to be able to afford to live in the community in which we are working. I encourage you to take bold action and declare that you place a high value on your teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Courtapassi. Annie Scully.
Good evening. Hello? Yes? Working? Test, 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 test. There we go. Yes? There we go. Yes, thank you. Good evening. I actually didn't come planning to speak. I came in support of the EL Master Plan. But today I had the honor, I'm in my I don't know, I lose count, 34th or so year of teaching. And as an educator, I've never been more proud. Actually, I realize this is a bit of a contradiction to the last, but to be a member of Santa Rosa City Schools. As a teacher, I was able to spend 5 days of last school year in a training for equity, and another 2 days for a training directed at unconscious bias. And I consider myself a semi-liberal, sort of sometimes awake human being, and I wasn't. I learned so much. And today at the end of the training, I said to the trainers, please thank Diane for sponsoring this for us. And Kikanza said, thank you yourself. So I'm here to thank you, Diane, because, and for all of you, and for those who haven't yet had the opportunity, the Museum of Tolerance, the equity training, the unconscious bias training, this work frames what we're trying to do with our EL population. So tonight when another incredible human being to work for RSLE, Roma Flores, when we got to go down to San Diego on Monday and see the work that they're doing there, folks went today to Oakland or San Jose, and we go Friday to Oakland. When you see equity in terms of how our students are being educated, that's the dream that brings us all here tonight. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Scully. Okay, moving on to reports. SRTA, Ms. Ola King-Clay. President Ola King-Clay.
Dr. King-Clay. Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent, and distinguished board members. As always, this is a moment in time to share some positive news. This is your lucky day, as John pointed out, but we get to share in the celebration of 900+ educators and their day of glory. According to CTA, NEA, and the whole world, this is the day of the teacher. A special thank you goes out to each and every one who touched the hearts of our future leaders. Only in America can we get our day. This is a great segue into another special recognition for all those 28 retirees. Some are behind me, some of them are at home watching us on television. They have a total of now 725 years of service to this district. Leading the way with 35 years is Diane Stevenson of Helen Lehman. Adrian Fideli of Herbert Slater with 34 years. Louise Silk of Still Lane with 33 years. Joe Wash of Slater with 32, along with John Quintrell, rounding off with 32 years. And the top 6th person, Dan Evans from my home, Rincon Valley, with 30 years. This is called quality at its best. The month of May starts the last powerful drive before the end of school. Everyone is trying to meet deadlines, printing up their awards, ordering caps and gowns, printing up finals, completing the AP testing, ratifying MOUs, plans for the last dance, and working towards a closing school year on a positive note. SRTA looks forward to the May 31st for some heart-to-heart collaboration. A thank you goes out to School Plus for their continued support of the sports and arts. And good luck goes out to Santa Rosa High Sea Perch team as they compete in Atlanta. I wish I was going with them. For the underwater remote operated vehicle competition, I think they will do quite well. And a bouncing ball goes out to Elsie Allen rugby team that will be heading to Missouri for their competition, and I'm sure they will do quite well. First sounds like a nice place to be. Among the top 5 in the state, in the country, would be awesome. As we move forward, I hope everyone still have their eyes on the prize. The prize is unity, effort to move us into the 21st century with a joyfulness of trust, transparency, collaboration, professionalism, caring, and above all, faith. Faith that we will strive to work together and not fall apart. Little words of wisdom to live by. Power of light. Light a match in a dark room and watch as the light instantly overcomes the darkness. Observe the power and the grace of that single solitary flame dancing with light. We are that flame. We are dancing with our students. We are the light. Thank you.
Thank you, Ola. CSEA, is Tammy here? Superintendent? Superintendent had a dental procedure today, and she's going to rest her voice. I'm going to do a quick report. I had a meeting with Will Lyon a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about teachers and the impact of teachers on our lives, and I thought today would be an appropriate day for me to, after that meeting, I actually sat down and sort of made a list, because I was going to write something on my Facebook about it, but I didn't get around to doing that, but made a list of who are the really important teachers, and all the way through university and everything. But you know, the top 5 or 6 were all people from our district, and so I thought that I'd name them today. And that's Ms. Easterday, and who some of you I think still work with through SCO, and Mr. Cadell and Mr. Follett, all from Brook Hill, and Mr. Falk from Herbert Slater, and Mr. Perry from Herbert Slater, and Mr. Stenger and Mr. Gilbert from Montgomery High School, and Mr. Johnson from Montgomery High School, and Ms. Davis from Montgomery High School. And those teachers were so important to me, not just because of what they taught me and the foundation they gave me, but because I think they really helped keep me on the pretty close to straight and narrow, not totally straight and narrow, but pretty darn close. They were really important adults in my life. In addition to having a strong family, they were really important. So I thought tonight would be a good night to give a shout out to those important teachers. The other thing that I wanted to say tonight is just to talk about some changes, and one of them came up tonight, so I want to reiterate this change that we've made to our agenda. And one of the things that we're doing on our agenda now is we're not doing resolutions at the end. We're doing resolutions at the beginning. We used to do them at the end, and it was sort of an afterthought, and it was 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or sometimes 11 o'clock, and there'd be nobody here or maybe 2 people in the audience. We thought that if there was something important to acknowledge, or a group of folks to acknowledge, that we should do that at the beginning when all the people were here. But because folks come out at the beginning both to watch and to participate in our reports throughout the night, we also decided that it would be more efficient to put them all in one resolution. And so that the first time we made that change was actually this last meeting, which is why there were several resolutions in one. And that's because we want our resolutions to be front and center, but we also don't want our staff members and our family members to have to be here until the wee hours. And with that, CSBA, NSBA, Director Pugh, do you have a report?
I have a report,
All right.
and I'll try to abbreviate it here a little bit. I'm focusing more on the National Association of School Boards with this report tonight. As you all know, the House approved the Obamacare repeal law, and sent it on to the Senate. This will have a Medicare cut of about almost $1 billion, well, actually more than that, $880 billion, or 25% of that budget. Now, the targeted cuts focus mainly on children and the elderly. It poses a per capita cap for each child, and that'll cause many of our states to have to ration health care services to children that don't have health care. It shifts the mandated cost to local states as well. So the states will have the authority, but not the funds, to carry out the programs that our national capital is established. Screenings for vision care, hearing, and mental health will be unfeasible under this plan, and fewer health services offered to students with special needs will occur. And so that's what it is in it for us. And it'd be good to hear from our administration about what that financial impact might be to our local district as well. And lastly, the Child Nutrition Agriculture Secretary, Sonny Perdue, is interested in rolling back nutritional standards nationally. They will still permit us to serve 1% milk and whole grain with exemptions from the federal government. So we refer to this as shifting from wheat to white bread. And then the latest bill that has been entered on children nutrition is from Kristi Noem, who's a Republican from South Dakota. And her bill is called Permanent Flexibility for Schools Meal Act. And what that's about is it removes all nutritional requirements and makes them optional to all the states. So there wouldn't be any nutritional standards anymore for child care and child-produced food in the district. And so that we're referring to that as deep-fried Twinkies and donuts would be okay. And that's where we are. Now, facing all these problems, we're pushing back at the National School Board Association as you expect we would, and we make some inroads, but it's definitely becoming difficult now. And so I'd like to show a video if I could. Rick? This is why we do the things we do as school board members.
Because we are committed to the children of this country. And we believe that every single child should have the opportunity to reach their potential. We understand that education is the foundation of our democracy. And that an educated public is an informed public. It is my dream that we as a society will recognize the transformative power of great public education. Public schools can be the great equalizer. Regardless of poverty, ethnicity, or situation in life, an effective teacher and supportive school can open up the world for all students. Honestly, it's the best, hardest, most rewarding, most emotional, most frustrating, and the most inspiring job anyone could ever do. We're producing incredible engineers, IT techs, authors, doctors, and more. We have waiting lists for students from other countries to come to America just so they can experience a solid American education. My sincere hope is that public education will be viewed and supported as an investment in our children's future and our country's future. The knowledge that my decisions play an important role in the future of many children is what motivates me. And I'm humbled to be able to play a small role in helping them succeed in school and beyond. We do this job to see our students grow, succeed, overcome. To see the smiles on seniors' faces as they walk across the stage to be handed their diploma. We show up for our students because education is foundational to solving the world's issues. Because strong public schools transform lives.
That's why we do what we do every day.
Thank you, Director Pugh. Director Christoph, do you have anything on CSBA?
I will be going to a delegate assembly this next coming weekend, and I will present to you when I get back a detailed legislative report of what is going on at the state level then. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. You're moving E1 through 11?
That's what I would like to move.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, second by Director Sheffield. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh,
Aye.
Director Sheffield,
Aye.
Director Christoph,
Aye.
Director Fong,
Aye.
Director Anderson,
Aye.
President Close,
Aye.
Student Board Member.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, and that brings us to F1, discussion item, English Learner Master Plan update.
Good evening. President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, members of the board. I'm actually going to be turning over the mic to Director Romo Flores and her team. They're going to give us tonight an update on the English Learner Master Plan. A lot of hard work has been going into this over the last year, and I know they look forward to being able to share this with you tonight. So with that, I turn it over to Director Flores, and she can share and introduce her team.
Good evening, everyone. So we have a large team, and this isn't everyone. These are just some representatives from our English Learner Master Plan Task Force. There's a total of 25 of us. I'd just like to thank all of them for coming, and I'm not going to take the time to personally introduce all of them, but they're fabulous and they've been wonderful, and it's just been such a great pleasure to work with all of them. The heart that has gone into this work is just amazing, and I'm just so humbled to work with them, and just so grateful that they are part of Santa Rosa City Schools and that they have the heart to serve all students, but especially our English learners. And so I just want to thank them all for being here this evening and for all their work. So this work is important because currently Santa Rosa City Schools has over 16,000 students. Over 4,000 of them are English learners. That's over a quarter of our student population. 50% of those English learners are long-term English learners. That means that it's a formal classification for these students because they have been in American schools for 6 years or more. They have not progressed in their California English Language Development Test for 2 consecutive years or more, and they are struggling academically. So 50% of our English learners are identified as long-term English learners. 19% of them are at risk of becoming identified as long-term English learners. So the Department of Justice and the Department of Education have put out this joint statement that I'd like to read to you. It is crucial to the future of our nation that English learners and all students have equal access to a high-quality education and the opportunity to achieve their full academic potential. And that is truly a shared belief here at Santa Rosa City Schools. We believe this wholeheartedly. But our current reality is that our English learners are on a bumpy road. Our current English Learner Master Plan is outdated. It was last revised in 2010. It is not a comprehensive plan. As I mentioned before, we have over 4,000 students that need more language and academic support. And we must ensure that they have access to the core content. With more than 50% of our English learners identified as long-term English learners, we currently are not adequately meeting their needs. It's important to point out that our English learners have a double curricular load. So they have to learn all the grade level content. They have to learn the same or meet the same rigorous academic standards as our monolingual English learner students. But they also must be learning English at the same time. They must be simultaneously learning English, academic English, to access that core content. So it truly is a double curricular load for our English learners that we must acknowledge. We have a moral imperative to get to a place where our data supports that we are meeting the needs of our English learners. To get there, we need to create a roadmap. William Cortez Jacobo and the other 4,000 English learners in our district are counting on us to create that roadmap for them. The English Learner Master Plan will be that roadmap for schools and for school and district personnel to implement optimal and legal programs for students, so that our English learners have equal access to high-quality education and the opportunity to achieve their full academic, social, and economic potential. Knowing we needed to revise our English Learner Master Plan, we invited all stakeholders to provide input and collaborate to create this roadmap. And we had a fabulous, as you see, a fabulous group of teachers, counselors, family engagement facilitators, parents, community members, and administrators that came forward to do this important work. And we've been meeting regularly since March of 2016. The purpose of this task force is to create a master plan that focuses on building district-wide capacity and a sustainable system of English learner services, and to ensure that our English learner programs are coherent, cohesive, and effective. We desire that all English learners reach their linguistic, academic, and cultural proficiency. In January of 2015, the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Justice developed these resources for schools and districts. They're the English Learner Toolkit and the Newcomer Toolkit and a Dear Colleague letter. And these were created to remind schools and districts of their obligations under federal law to ensure English learner students have equal access to a high-quality education and the opportunity to achieve their full academic potential. And these have been very helpful in the development of Santa Rosa City Schools' English Learner Master Plan, as we are using these documents as our guideline. From these documents emerged 3 goals. Goal 1, English learner students will learn English quickly enough and fluently enough to participate in academic work through integrated and designated English language development. So this graph or chart indicates that the differences and similarities between the two. So integrated English language development happens throughout the entire school day. The instructional focus is content with language to support that content. And the standards used are the content standards and the English language development standards. Designated English language development is a specific protected portion of the school day. It happens every day. And the instructional focus is language, and the standards used are the English language development standards. And it's important to understand that we are obligated to provide both integrated and designated English language development to all English learners, regardless of grade level, regardless of language proficiency levels. Until students are reclassified, all of our English learners must have both integrated and designated English language development. Goal 2, English learners will learn grade-level mathematics, reading, language arts, social studies, and science according to California standards. The U.S. Department of Education and Office of Civil Rights wrote the Dear Colleague letter to all districts and teachers to remind us of this obligation. So we as a district must ensure that all of our English learner students, regardless of language proficiency levels, have access to Common Core aligned curriculum and instruction in all content areas. And this is a concern of our District English Language Advisory Council, because a lot of our English learners are not being provided access to the core content or to A through G curriculum. Goal 3, English learners will have equal opportunity to participate in all programs. Again, the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Justice reminds districts that we cannot exclude any students from any programs or classes based on a student's language proficiency level, because if we do, we are violating their civil rights. So to meet these goals, we need to even out the road. Our English learner students need more and different services. It's our job through the development, implementation, and monitoring of our English Learner Master Plan to ensure our English learner students are on the right course to be college and career ready once they leave Santa Rosa City Schools. We are working diligently to provide this roadmap. We are writing 8 comprehensive chapters, and we are using the federal resources as guidelines. We're looking at best practices in other districts that have data to support that they are meeting the needs of their English learners. Our goal is to bring to you a revised comprehensive English Learner Master Plan that you will be proud of and that you will feel confident in adopting at the June 14th board meeting. We will be implementing the plan in 2017-18 to the extent possible, and we will be evaluating the effectiveness of that plan and improving it. It will not be a document that we will not continuously revise, as we feel it's important to have that continuous cycle of improvement. I'd just like to point out that we have some wonderful things happening in our district for our English learners. This is one of our teachers that pulled English learners to the back of the room to provide them additional academic support, additional literacy support in English. And we see evidence of this throughout the district. We want it to be systematic. And so our English Learner Master Plan is committed to including these best practices and making them systematic in our district. In closing, this bottom picture is of our current District English Language Advisory Council, and the top picture is of our English learners at a reclassification ceremony. And at one of our first District English Language Advisory Councils, or DLAC meetings, I told our families that I wanted to see them all cry. And they looked at me a little funny, and I shared with them that when I graduated from college, the first in my family of 6 to graduate from college, that my parents were extremely proud, and they cried tears of joy that were priceless. And I want all of them to experience that. And in our heart of hearts, all of us believe that Santa Rosa City Schools can make that a reality. And so we are committed to removing obstacles and providing the supports and programs and services to make sure that all of our English learners get a quality education in Santa Rosa City Schools. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Board, do we have questions or comments? Director Fong.
What a stellar group of people. I really like all the stakeholders on this committee, and together collaboratively, you know our kids and you know what works in classrooms, so thank you. And I know you have done a lot of work and there's more work to be done, obviously. So just a few questions, Diane and Director Romo Flores. are we going to get an update in 2 weeks or in just, so there are 2 more board meetings before we bring it back to us for adoption. Are we going to get to see it in the next board meeting before we adopt it?
Most likely not, because we're still in the process. So what we did is we divided the chapters, so different stakeholders took on a different chapter. And so some chapters are finished, some chapters are still in development. And so we gave a deadline of having it completed by June 7th.
Okay.
When it comes to the board on June 14th, you still have an opportunity to give feedback to it, because we can bring it back on the following board meeting.
It will always be a work in progress.
It
Yes,
really
absolutely.
will. It really will, and especially as our students progress, because they will.
Absolutely.
Then the plan's going to change. The way in which we're going to deliver services are going to change.
Yep.
I'm also wondering if we've already set out the LCAP, we're already taking feedback on the LCAP, we already have staffing, and the kinds of resources it's really going to take to support our EL population, much more than we actually have in classrooms and sites now. How that might happen if we're starting in August and we've staffed and we're hiring. And
Realistically, it's the current LCAP and the way that we've had to make some reductions. I don't see that we're going to be able to do a whole lot of changes, especially since what they have discovered throughout this whole process, and they just got back from some site visits. We're probably one cycle away for staffing types of changes in the LCAP.
Yes, I envision that next year will be a lot of professional development that needs to happen, and then we would be making some recommendations for some staffing. We'll have recommendations for staffing, and that's one of our chapters, but realistically, I doubt it would be able to happen next year.
I'm wondering what our work as a district has been in terms of all the equity work that we've done and Museum of Tolerance and unconscious bias training equity work we've done, how that's informed the members of the team and what kind of conversations you've had. Can you talk a little bit about that? Annie just thanked us, thanked Diane for all of that.
I can say one more thing, and that is Elsie Allen has the highest number of newcomers. And the school that we visited in San Diego, those students, those high school newcomers, were getting A to G credit. So they were, it's just phenomenal what was happening there. And the reason it's phenomenal is because everybody believed it could be done. That's all that it took. Well, that and technology. Those are the 2 things. So the one thing and staffing. Okay, 3 things. And English, not math. And so the last thing I would say is how the equity work has informed, I'll speak personally, my capacity to speak to my administration about, 32 students who've arrived at X amount of 32 points along the year, I was spanning 14 months. That's not equity. And I knew that before, but I didn't have the language to communicate that in the way that I now do as a result of the trainings.
And it's been an important bridge to have both going on. For example, some of us, as part of our equity training, we were able to go to Mission High School in San Francisco, which was a real eye-opener to hear that their freshmen and sophomores couldn't take any honors classes, and every junior, senior had to take at least 1 and could take no more than 3. They were all about equity and really addressing the needs of their second language learners in particular. And so there's such a bridge between all of it, all the pieces fit together, and being part of both groups has, I think the study of equity informs the EL informs this, and I think that's been important, and it's really sad for me to think that the LCAP, if it's, to delay it, it's like I feel this sense of urgency now to move things forward because kids are losing time, and I know that's just the way it is, but I feel that the 2 teams have really, there's been a lot of knowledge and a lot of awareness that's grown this year for a lot of us, and I think that our district's really headed in a great direction. So I appreciate it, and I wish it could go faster.
I'm just going to finish up by just making a comment about trying to stay out of the weeds here, but in terms of policy, we had a very nice comment from the parent from Shackstein, differentiation and how we wish every kid could have this. And so we're talking about differentiation, and it's the same word, differentiation, and we're using differentiation for intellectual curiosity and engagement, and attracts, and we need differentiation. We're talking about differentiation for English language learners, and kind of in our minds we're thinking different kinds of differentiation, but really we shouldn't be, and we're not, right? So I'm really interested to see what you are going to be coming up with in terms of the plan. Living a plan or no plan over many years in school is so hard, it's difficult, our challenges. So thank you again, and I know you guys are going to give it your best.
Yeah. So I don't know if our parents would like to say anything. I want to give them the opportunity.
I have one blue card that I got a little bit late, if I could call that. I think, yeah, Rocio Munoz.
Buenas noches a todos.
Good evening, everyone.
Todos sabemos que Estados Unidos es un país multicultural porque tiene una diversidad.
Mic is not on.
Sorry.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Porque tiene una diversidad de culturas,
It has a diversity of cultures,
razas,
races,
tradiciones
traditions,
y lenguas.
and idiomas. And sorry, languages. Sorry. What am I doing? ¿Quiere comentar?
Todos los maestros,
All teachers,
de alguna manera,
in one way or another,
a corto o a largo plazo,
and sorry, one more time. Over the long term, short or long term,
con independencia del porcentaje de estudiantes que tengan,
I can't hear her very well. Switch sides. Sorry.
With the percentage of students that they have,
el maestro va a estar frente a estudiantes aprendices de inglés en algún momento.
all of our teachers will be in front of English learners at one point or another.
Estoy convencida
I'm convinced
que esta experiencia
that this experience
será para todos los maestros de este país.
will be the same experience for all of our teachers in this country.
Y eso es así por la forma en que está compuesto el país de Estados Unidos.
And it will be that way because of the way that this country is made up, the demographics.
Lo que estoy pensando yo es que no todos los maestros han tenido la capacitación o el conocimiento que se requiere
But she believes that not all the teachers have the sufficient training or capacity to
afrontar las necesidades que tienen los estudiantes aprendices de inglés.
confront or take on the needs of the English learners.
El Departamento de Justicia de Estados Unidos,
The U.S. Department of Justice, according to the U.S. Department of Justice,
a través del Departamento de Educación,
by means of the Department of Education,
en un documento refiere
in one of their documents that they published is discussing
lo siguiente.
the following.
Bajo el título sexto
Under the Title VI,
de la Ley de Derechos Civiles,
under the law of civil rights, the Civil Rights Law,
título sexto
the Title VI
de 1964,
of 1964, the Civil Rights Act,
y la Ley de Igualdad de Oportunidades Educativas
and the law of equal opportunities, equal educational opportunities
de 1974,
of 1974.
las escuelas públicas
Public schools
tienen que asegurarse
must make sure that
de que los estudiantes aprendices de inglés
English learner students
puedan participar
can participate
de forma significativa
in a significant way
y equitativa
and an equitable way
en los programas educativos.
in educational programs.
Y prosigue señalando, los distritos escolares públicos
Public school districts
tienen la obligación legal
have the legal obligation
de garantizar
to guarantee
que los estudiantes,
that students,
aprendices del inglés,
that English learner students,
puedan participar
can participate
de forma significativa
in a significant way
y equitativa
and equitable way
en los programas
in programs
educativos.
and educational programs.
La elaboración del plan maestro para estudiantes de inglés
So the development of the English learner plan
presenta muchos retos,
presents a lot of challenges,
cosas que a veces parecen increíbles,
sometimes proposes things that almost seem incredible,
que los estudiantes aprendices de inglés puedan llegar a realizar.
that English learner students can indeed carry out, they can achieve.
Pero es muy importante que todos reconozcamos
It's very important that all of us realize
que nuestros estudiantes y nuestros hijos,
that our students, our children,
aprendices del inglés,
who are English learners,
tienen las mismas capacidades,
have the same ability,
posibilidades
possibilities,
y sueños
and dreams
que los estudiantes
as other students
con dominios del inglés.
who are English only.
Fue una experiencia muy bonita visitar el Distrito Unificado de San Diego,
It was a very wonderful experience to visit the San Diego School District,
en donde pude ver
and what she was able to see
físicamente
physically,
que cuando se quiere
that when you really want it
y se le da la oportunidad
and you're given the opportunity
a los estudiantes,
to the students,
aprendices del inglés,
to English learner
y no
students.
estoy hablando solamente de latinos,
I'm not only talking about Latinos, all English learners.
esos estudiantes tienen el mismo éxito que cualquier otro estudiante con dominio del inglés.
These students can be just as successful as any other English-speaking student.
Platicando con alguna de las personas que nos atendieron,
She was speaking with one of the people that was were helping them, assisting them there.
nos comentaba su experiencia
She was talking about her experience,
que en el año 2014
that in the year 2014,
las escuelas high school,
the high schools,
ellos tenían el programa donde los aprendices de inglés solamente recibían sus clases generales y las clases AG o académicas solo eran para los estudiantes con dominio del inglés.
Previously it had been that the students who were English learners were in regular type classes, but only students who had mastered English were in AG classes then.
So the newcomers were basically, or the English learners were placed in a with a multiple subject teacher instead of core content, so they weren't getting their core content.
En el 2014 lograron hacer este cambio,
In 2014 they implemented this change,
unieron a los estudiantes,
and they put the students in,
aprendices del
and
inglés,
then the English learner students,
con dominio del inglés, con el
So they
estudiantes
stopped segregating
del inglés.
students. So they stopped their practice in 2014. They stopped that practice of segregating their English learners and not giving them access to the core. And they gave them access to the core content.
accesar las materias principales.
Algunas partes de la comunidad no dieron voto de confianza
Some parts of the community were not supportive.
y me refería como el periódico local dio ataques diciendo que este cambio no iba a funcionar.
The local paper was putting commentaries that were saying that this is never going to work.
3 años después,
And about 3 years later,
ella con mucha satisfacción
she, with a lot of satisfaction,
pudo decirme
she was able to say to
que el
me
96% de sus estudiantes de high school
that 75% of
95.
Oh, sorry, 95% of her
96% of their total student population
están graduando de sus high school.
will be graduating from the high school.
with A through G graduation requirements.
Con los cursos AG, ¿no?
Sí, porque adoptaron ese nuevo sistema.
PhD classes.
Eso me demuestra a mí, al igual que les demuestra a ellos, que los estudiantes, nuestros hijos, tienen las mismas capacidades y la misma aptitud académica, mental, psicológica.
It showed her and it showed all the others that our students, our children, have the same capacity, the same aptitude for learning as anyone else.
Para conseguir esos logros.
But in order to achieve these successes.
Yo quiero invitarlos a ustedes
she would like to invite all of you
para que den su voto de confianza
to give your vote of confidence
para este nuevo plan para estudiantes aprendices del inglés,
for the English learner students.
porque lo único que se está buscando
Because the only thing that they're looking for
es que los estudiantes,
is that the students,
sin importar si son aprendices de inglés o si son estudiantes con dominio del inglés,
whether they are English learners or whether they're students who are English only,
todos
that all of them,
pueden conocer
that they can be familiar with
la gloria del éxito
the glory of success
al obtener la graduación no solo de la high school, sino de poder estar graduando de una universidad.
not only just graduating from high school, but also being able to graduate from a college.
Los retos son grandes,
The challenges are great.
Challenges are great, yeah.
pero es posible. Gracias.
But it is possible, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Oh,
We have one more parent.
okay, good.
Buenas noches,
Good evening.
mi nombre es Adrián Juárez. Mi niño estudia en la escuela Brookfield.
His name is Adrian Juarez. His daughter goes to Brook Hill School.
En esta noche estoy contento por estar aquí apoyando a este grupo que estamos elaborando el plan maestro para los aprendices de inglés.
He's very happy to be here tonight, supporting the parents with the English learner, with the English learner master plan.
Quisiera compartir algo. En el momento que mi niño entró a una escuela,
He wants to share a moment from one time when his child was coming into a school.
empecé a enrolarme en los comités que están dentro de la escuela, como el comité de ELAC.
He as a parent started to become involved in the school groups, like ELAC, for example.
En el transcurso de cada vez que yo salgo, mi niño me dice, ¿a dónde vas? Voy a un meeting, a una junta de ELAC. ¿Y para qué es? Es una junta donde estamos viendo las necesidades que ustedes tienen como estudiantes.
So his daughter would ask, well, where are you going? Every time he was going off to do this, and he said, well, I'm going to an ELAC meeting. Well, in order to explain what it was he was doing, he was saying that, well, this is a place where we go to talk about what your needs are.
Ahora estamos continuando con esta elaboración de este plan maestro para los aprendices de inglés.
And right now we're working on this development, this elaboration of the EL master plan.
Y creo yo que muchas cosas que están poniendo en este plan, como estaban comentando, en un futuro va a haber muchos cambios.
You can believe that we're putting in a lot of things in this plan. There's going to be a lot of changes.
Bien para nuestros hijos, para nuestros estudiantes, para nosotros como padres.
For our students, but for our children, but also for us as parents.
Desafortunadamente, si yo no tuve una graduación, espero que mi niño lo tenga y cualquiera de los estudiantes que están lo puedan tener con el avance de este plan que se está elaborando.
So even though he was not able to have a graduation, he has that dream for his own family, and by means of this plan, we're trying to create that opportunity.
¿Y quiere comentar también sobre el valor de ser un padre en un comité o el valor de relaciones?
Con este plan, como ya dijeron anteriormente, esperamos un apoyo de ustedes también.
We are seeking your support. As a part of this plan.
Que seamos un equipo.
That we are a team.
Y yo creo que la unión hace la fuerza para salir adelante juntos.
He thinks that unity creates strength, and that together we can move forward.
So me siento muy contento de estar apoyando y pues muchas gracias por su apoyo.
So he's very happy to be involved, and thank you very much for your support. I just want to mention real quickly something that the parents had said that we've discussed a lot, because the parents in particular are discussing parent involvement. It's a logical section to work on. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that the importance of not just providing information in another language, it's also about developing relationships with the parents. Because if you form a strong relationship with the parents, like we have parents like Adrian who comes to every meeting he possibly can, and I can't thank him enough for that. But it's because we have a positive relationship with Rocio and a positive relationship with Adrian that they are able to help us to be better educators. Just my personal comments.
Any other comments from your group?
I promise I'll be brief. I just wanted to say we visited a model today in San Jose where we saw the value of good first teaching, and one of the models that we saw, they were heavily relying on GLAD. They include diversity training as one of their modules, and so I feel that in many ways the training that we have received is putting us on the right path. The more we meet best first teaching practices, the more we're going to be reclassifying and not have the problems that we're seeing at the middle school and high school. So as an elementary teacher, that's my goal, to minimize the students who are not being RFEP'd. And I think that's the direction we also need to head.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No questions, I just want to applaud all of you for the work that you do in the classroom and that you're doing on this master plan. And as I'm learning more and more about the work that you do in visiting some of your classes, just the challenges that you face, in respect to the demographics of city schools and the ambitious goal, particularly goal number 2, of the master plan, where English learners learning at grade level in mathematics, reading, language arts, social studies, and science. That's just fabulous, and just want to applaud you guys and thank you so much for doing this. I'm looking forward to June 7th completion and bringing it back to us on the 14th. Thank you.
Director Fong, you had something else?
I do. With 26% of our student body being English language learners, and with such a huge issue in terms of getting our kids ready for college and career, and especially with our long-term EL population, we really need to couple this with everything else in the LCAP we're doing for engagement, because we're talking about trauma, and we're talking about poverty, and we're talking about lots of different things. And I want to urge you, this team, to be bold and to be transformational. Because if we don't do that, if we're just rearranging deck chairs and we're just letting the barriers dictate how we do things, we're going to always have the same thing. And I'm tired of the status quo. And we can't have that. So this committee is so important to us, and it's not going to be happening in a year or 2 years, but it's going to be happening in 3, right? Yes, 3.
We're going to implement it.
Results, I'm talking about results. Yeah. So I just encourage you, bold and transformational, and we're not rearranging deck chairs, please. I know you are.
And we're starting now. We're not waiting 3 years. One of the models of excellence is project-based learning. So we're on the right track already with our common core units of development, and we just need more support, more training, some EL people at the sites to help. But we can be bold and transformational. We're already on the right track, I believe.
Thank you so much for your great report and for your great work, and you have such a great team. It's clear, it's fantastic. It's so critical that we do this job well, and that you guys are successful, because like Rocio said, all of these kids have the same aptitude, they have the same dreams, they have the same goals, and we're going to throw them out to the same world, so we really need to have the same expectations for them. So we're going to need to work hard to give them what they need to meet those expectations. So I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we have, is there a Manuel Mello here? Or does anyone know who that is? Okay, we will figure that out. Okay, F2, alternative education update.
Okay, good evening again. I'm just having the team come down here. And the students. So tonight you're going to hear an alternative education update, primarily focused on our Bridge Academies. Director Fletcher and team will be presenting tonight, so I'm going to give up my chair again so that you can hear from the team.
Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, and members of the board. Tonight, you're going to hear from this absolutely wonderful team who's providing all kinds of great access to our students in the 8th grade Bridge program. So if there's students here, then I'd like them to come down because we do have our students here with us tonight. Okay. So the 2016-17 school year has seen great changes in our alternative ed programs throughout the secondary level. Our 8th grade Bridge program is in its 2nd year, and the teachers have been meeting all year once a month to talk about their programs, define their programs, and to address any issues that arise and see what, work with each other to figure out how to improve everything. The 3 small necessary schools at Mesa at Santa Rosa, Grace at Pioneer, and Midrose at Elsie Allen were incorporated into their home campuses this year to also provide greater access to our educational classes at the high schools. The other thing that happened is the high schools have had a committee meeting towards the development of a 9 through 12 alternative education program at each of the schools, and that's been going on this year. And as we've done our work, we keep focused on the 2 district goals: to graduate students who are college and career ready, and to look after their wellness and engagement as we go through their high school, or middle school and high school careers. So I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves next, but I'll say this is Ed Navarro, principal at Rincon Valley Middle School.
So what is the Bridge program? It's an alternative educational model for our middle school students who are having difficulty being successful in a comprehensive middle school setting. The Bridge is a place filled with experiential learning, driving our kids towards meeting both our wellness goals as well as our academic goals of preparing them to be college and career ready. The Bridge is creating a more accessible pathway for some of our most struggling students, ensuring that we don't lose them, but rather guide them towards academic success. What does the Bridge look like? It looks different from school to school because the Bridge allows us to develop our program so it best meets the needs of our students. It isn't prescripted because our students' needs aren't always the same. What it is an alternative educational program which takes into account how to best meet the needs, both social, emotional, and academic of our students so that we can engage and spark the will to learn in some of our most unengaged.
So the way that the Bridge Academy works I'm Shelley Cunningham, by the way.
Okay, there we go. I'm Shelley Cunningham. I'm principal at Slater Middle School, and as Ed was saying, each of our bridges is different, all with the same goal. We don't want to lose kids. We don't want kids to fall through the cracks, and we don't want to have them leave our sites and go somewhere else or out of Santa Rosa City Schools. So we want to provide opportunity for them to be successful, and we look at each child individually. We look to see what it is that's causing them to be disengaged or whatever the issue is that's causing them to not be successful. So as you can see up there under social and emotional, the students are working really hard to build trust amongst each other and to build the capacity to trust themselves as well, to trust that they can learn. We do that through our work with our restorative folks, so they have community building and circles in their classrooms. They have an opportunity to really build a community, a small community within their own classroom, with their teacher, their aide, and with each other. Each Bridge classroom is a designated spot, and Most of the kids have 4 classes in the bridge, although the goal is to integrate students back into the general population as soon as we feel they're ready, whether it's with 1 class, 2 classes, 3 classes. For example, I have a student right now who's only in the bridge for 1 period, kind of like a directed studies for a special education student might only spend 1 period with their resource specialist. That student is now ready to just spend 1 period getting that extra support from the bridge teacher, but they're in their general core classes, and they've done that after 3/4 of the school year. And each school, again, as I said, is different. So we all try very hard to take a look at what the student's progress is throughout the year and determine when they're ready to go back in and in which class. And it's a team decision. The student is involved. So if they feel that they're strong in English, or their favorite subject is science, or they're really doing well in math, and that's where they want to jump back in to see if they can be successful now in that classroom, that's where they go. I guess that's that. So, and of course, they're doing grade level standard work. It's not something that's watered down. It's not something that's a grade level below. It's grade level work. They're using the same content, the same curriculum, same books. They just have tons more resources. And actually, I think Mrs. Coker's going to talk a little bit about that, the different resources. And the kids are learning in different ways. They're not learning the same way everyone else is, because they've shown that they can't. So now they're showing that they can't. I mean, we know they can learn. We just had to figure out how to turn that on, which key unlocked that learning box. And whether it's through projects, art, cooking, using different measuring, construction technology, doing whatever to figure out how to learn, that's what they're doing. So it's unique amongst each of the schools, but we all have some common threads.
Oh, this is Mr. Sheedy. Come sit here.
Hi, I'm Nate Sheedy. I'm the bridge teacher over at Santa Rosa Middle School. And I guess to use the word of the night, which was differentiation, the 2 slides, or actually all of these slides, were a really good example of a unit that we did on the solar system. We were able to collaborate with Kurt Kruger over at the Pioneer High School Planetarium. We all worked in our class to develop, like we said, kind of different lessons, varying lessons. I think at Rinkin they worked with Zach Laurie, who was one of our collaborators, in doing a construction project and creating scale models of all the planets. We worked with exponents and powers of 10 and scientific notation, and again, just kind of studying the solar system from a variety of angles. And then after working in the class, we were able to go out to Sugarloaf State Park and do the planet walk, which really kind of drove it home for the kids when they were able to actually walk from the sun and then walk all the way out to Pluto. You know, they found themselves were out at Uranus and we're making our way out to Pluto, and they're like, are we there yet? You know, and they couldn't believe it, like we weren't there yet. We just kept going and going and going. And then, you know, they really got it when we got there. So I think the field trips for me has been one of the most powerful things that we do in Bridge, and it really gets them out in the community and gets them to experience things that they haven't experienced at home, or they haven't experienced in the past at all. And it's really good as far as community building, and it really helps to build trust between the teachers and students. So.
Speaking of building self-confidence and trust, this is really a restorative program. It's an intervention model. We believe that every student can be successful if we support them and provide them with the needs, with whatever meets their needs. This is largely experience-based learning and project-based learning, and we try to meet every learning style for all of the students, so we get them moving. We expose them to things that maybe they would never have been exposed to before. On the right, you can see that this is a building trust activity. We took all 5 bridge classes to Sonoma State University. So they got to visit a college campus. They ate lunch on the college campus and mingled with college students. They participated in the low ropes course, which was led by Sonoma State students. They had to build community, and that's really was important for, especially for launching the year, the beginning of the year. Students not only worked with one another in their own classrooms, but with all 5 bridge classes. Teachers were engaged, the aides in the classrooms came along and they participated. The college students participated with the students. It was really a good trust-building activity. And then on the left, you can see Zach Laurie, and he's doing some project-based learning with students. That's over at Comstock, where they actually built some compost bins, contributing to their own school environment. So they've really worked hard with Donna Bianchi, the bridge teacher, and Zach, building an amazing garden, and feeling like they're really a part of their school and really contributing something, and it really builds their self-confidence. This is another example of college and career connections. On the left, again, is more of that activity at Sonoma State University. You can see one of the college instructors there on the right, and the kids all had to get on there and balance and work together. I've had students make comments to me that that was one of their favorite activities because they really did have to learn to work together as a team. They had to show empathy for one another. It wasn't as easy for some kids as it was for others. It was kind of scary, some of the things they had to do. They had to really work together and take care of one another. On the right is a field trip where we went to Spring Hill Cheese and Petaluma Creamery. Larry Peter is the owner there. My husband Lloyd Coker works for PG&E, and he's a major account rep. So one of his responsibilities is to help businesses with energy conservation. So he talked to our students all about energy conservation and those kinds of jobs. As an example, at PG&E, Larry Peter, the owner of the creamery, came and he spoke with all of the students, and his nephew there on the left grew up on the dairy in Petaluma. So they really learned farm to table and business. They had a whole tour of the creamery, and they had to dress just like the employees at the creamery dress. They had to be very aware of sanitation, and actually Diane came along with us on this field trip. So they really were exposed to a lot of different possible careers and jobs at that, and they also went out to the dairy and got to milk a Jersey cow, and so they really saw where the cheese starts and where it ends. Roger and Carl.
Hello there, my name is Carl. Hello there, my name is Carl Turner. I have the honor of being the one that comes in and teaches them to cook once a week. But we try to do a little bit more than just make food for them to eat. We try to work a little bit of STEM into the whole process, do it very subtly so they don't notice it. One of the first things I did at the beginning of the year is when they had to make cookies, which is a very motivating thing for them, was to tell them that they had to reproportion a recipe, get them a chance to understand what it takes to change things, the relationships between teaspoons, tablespoons, quarter cups, everything like that. I also try to make fractions a real life thing for them. Every week, chef, what's the 3/4 measuring cup? Well, it doesn't come with a 3/4 measuring cup. How are you gonna do that efficiently for me? I guess I'll use a 1/2 cup and a 1/4 cup. So that's a little bit of what we do with that. We also worked a little bit in science. We did a lot of sanitation in the beginning, but at the same time, we have also done, we've talked about baking and the organic chemistry. Constantly I'm talking about cookies. What makes a cookie spread? Butter. What does flour do in a cookie? As we go through and make other items, we talk about different types of leavening agents, organic, chemical, items like that. Then probably one of the most fun things that I did was I did a whole class on the difference between taste and flavor. I had them do that classic test where they had to put a jelly bean in their mouth, hold their nose. What was the basic test? I mean, basic taste. Were you getting salty, sweet? Were you getting some bitter? Were you getting umami? And then you have them do it again, remove the plug to their nose, and bingo, they can all figure out that they were eating buttered popcorn. Then we took it to the next level, and we did it kind of that Hell's Kitchen blind tasting. You talk about trust. These kids had to be blindfolded and let me stick food in their mouth, which they had no idea what it was. And at the end, we accumulated them all up into teams, and we were able to figure out a winner and give them a little special thing. We even managed to work in a little bit of engineering and art. This year, the kids actually made gingerbread houses from scratch, made the dough from scratch, built the house, had to construct the houses with royal icing. A few of them quite didn't make it. But I'll tell you, you give them a bag of candy, royal icing, and a bunch of food color, and you really get a chance to see the art in STEAM. So thank you, and I appreciate all your support.
I have to also say that I have heard from many of the Bridge students that they really want to pursue cooking as a possible career.
I'm Roger Page. I'm at RVMS Bridge. Just not close enough, perhaps. Oh, there we go. I'm Roger Page from Ringwood Valley Middle School, Bridge County. As we were looking for things to involve the kid with the lessons, we came across this, which turned out to be Pluto. I don't know why kids still think Pluto's a planet, but they do. And we made scale models of the planets. And it turned out that they wanted to be able to see Pluto, so this was about as small as we could go, and it set the scale for us. At this scale, Jupiter ends up being about 6 feet across, and the sun would be about 50 feet across. We couldn't deal with the sun. But they had to learn how to lay out plywood to be able to make a round 6-foot diameter planet, and then figure out how to support it so that we can put it up eventually outside on the walls. The other thing we ended up having to do was to figure out a scaling for distances, because if you're going to use this as Pluto, you end up needing a scale that would be about 7 miles across in order to have the distances proper. So that wouldn't work. With a 15-foot sun, that one wouldn't work. So we ended up having to change the scale so that the scale for the distances had to be different from the scale of the sizes of the planets, and make those conversions. And then we built it all and painted it, and some of them turned out pretty well, and some of them didn't match too well, but they worked out. In addition to that, and I brought some other visual aids, but we'll leave them there. For Pi Day, we had the kids find various round things in the classroom, some of which I brought in, and they had to determine the value for pi themselves. So they had to take a bottle top or a pan or a bowl, turn it over, measure the circumference, measure the diameter, and do the division to come up with the value for pi itself. And we had some that were pretty accurate out to about 1,000th place. That's purely coincidental. The things we were measuring with wouldn't have allowed us that kind of accuracy. But it gave them an understanding of pi, because all of them could quote the number, but none of them knew what it was. And now they all do. I also have some of their typing tests, because we spend, most days we do some typing in class. And I have 5 kids who are now typing 40 words or greater at 97% accuracy. I can't take any credit for one, because he came in doing about 80 words per minute with 100% accuracy. And he hardly talks. But all of them have improved their speed, and as we all know, being comfortable with a keyboard is something that will hold them in very good stead as they go on through high school and then hopefully through college as well. So we do a lot of hands-on things. We also do some of the field trips. Most of my kids take 1 or 2 classes in the general population, and it's really hard to pull them out for field trips as much as we would like. Their other teachers, and they don't like missing those other classes. So we keep them closer to home than some of the other classes.
Yeah. I'm Debbie Diesler, and I'm a contracted artist and teacher for the Bridge Academy, and I feel so privileged to be a part of this team. I've worked with all of the teachers now, and I've been to all 5 middle schools 3 different times. So I've actually spent full days with the students twice a year, and it has been a phenomenal experience for me, and I've seen some changes in our students as well, very positive changes. I've emphasized to each student to let go of fear in art. Know that there are no mistakes, and that's a different kind of concept, I know, but I truly believe that there are just changes from what we preconceive about what we're going to create. And each one of them has something of value that they can express with the art methods and elements of art that I or others have taught them this year. These new or enhanced art tools and techniques can also help them develop life skills that can be used to relieve stress and anxiety. Most all of the Bridge students in each of the 5 middle schools I attended and taught in remained engaged, and as observed by their classroom teachers, stayed more focused than usual with the activities that were presented to them. My approach in teaching is to make connections through art history, music, literature, performing, and/or visual arts. This can have a profound positive effect on the quality of students' lives. Learning about the basic elements of art, which include form, line, color, space, and texture. Oh, thank you for holding all those wonderful paintings up. That's great. All of these can allow students to begin to make those connections when they observe architecture firsthand or in a book, like the elements of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, if we're talking about an artist from France, Transamerica Building in San Francisco, or the Space Needle in Seattle. When they look at food and the culinary arts with Carl, their knowledge of color and how to use color can be a complement to the way they present their food. In fashion, they can be thinking about how to dress themselves that's pleasing to the eye, whether it's the patterns or the designs they look at, or the complementary colors that they have learned how to use. When hiking in nature on field trips, they can be looking for shapes and lines and color all around them and understanding foreground, middle ground, and background of the ocean or vineyards or mountain landscape, and then they can come back and paint what they remember. They may observe geometric components of designs using math and science, and they become more aware of artistic cultural symbols all around the world. Art opens their eyes and allows them not only to see beyond where they are right here and now, but it encourages and inspires students to continue learning and discovering new things in the future. It can enhance the overall quality of their life. Art is the most effective way to communicate across language and cultural barriers. When we view and study someone's art, we see the world through their eyes. When my students communicate and create by drawing on their own emotions, thoughts, and experiences, they're letting the world see through their eyes. Art is therapeutic. It has a feel-good effect on the body and the mind, and it helps people cope with the pressures of everyday life or extreme situations. It creates calm and happier states of mind. For many people, and specifically the students at Bridge, there are tremendous benefits that these students were able to observe and feel. Students said art was relaxing and they learned to take their time. It made them feel happy and it relieved stress and anxiety. They felt calm and desired to do it again. They loved learning how to use a brush, mix primary colors, and use complementary colors in their paintings. And they were helped and encouraged to freely express themselves without ridicule. I observed that creating art helped build their self-esteem and created a happier state of mind. At the end of the day, students were asked to leave their paintings in the classroom, but many wanted to take them home to their families. They felt really proud of what they had accomplished, what they had created, and what they had completed. I'd like to mention that Beth Burke, who has been taking pictures, She's the communications coordinator for the Santa Rosa City School District. She created a very moving 3-minute video, which I don't think we'll be able to show tonight, but it was of an art-filled day in a Bridge classroom. Students and teachers alike shared the positive effects of their total art experience. This was a part of the inspiration for creating criteria to recognize 1 or 2 students from each of the 5 middle school Bridge classes this year. I'm going to now share what that criteria is, and I wanted to emphasize that it is not, I didn't want the emphasis to be on talent that I was going to judge, because they all worked really hard. Some showed a definite interest more than others. So these are the 4 items that I came up with for my criteria. Respect for teachers and fellow classmates during art experiences, and this is throughout the year. Overall effort and engagement in art activities. Incorporation of art elements taught during art experiences. Completion of projects either during class time or throughout the year. In addition to receiving this certificate of recognition, I must mention that my father was seen, I showed the video to my father and he was very moved by it. So he and I are sponsoring gift cards from 2 local art stores, from Aaron Brothers and Michaels, that we hope these students will be able to be encouraged and moved to create something over the summer and beyond. And at this time, I'm going to call the names of all the students, and there were 2 from each Bridge class that could be recognized. Not everybody recognized 2, and that's fine. We have 9 students that I'm going to recognize. Not all of them are here. Some are and have been waiting so patiently. And the teachers, many of the teachers are here also, and I thank you for bringing their artwork. So I'm going to call out the names and give out the certificates. And if you will hold your applause until after we name everybody. Okay, so let's see. Let's have, some of these, again, are not here, but Alondra Martinez, Chris Pimentel. If you're here, if you'll hold up your piece that you've done, that would be great. Ricardo Meza, Daniel Villegas, Carlos Barrera, Rihanna Thorson, Deborah Clayton, Sam Padilla, and Nayeli Lopez. And let's give them a round of applause. Alondra Martinez and Chris Pimentel, Ricardo Meza, Daniel Villegas, Carlos Ferreira, Rihanna, I know is here. That's for you. And Deborah is here. And Sam is here. Sam is here.
Over the last week or so, I had the opportunity to randomly check in with students and ask them, how did Bridge help you this year? Just one simple question. The quotes that you see up there are random quotes that kids just say throughout their experiences. This is the first time I've ever seen the ocean, Miss Coker. I feel like I'm going to dream about this place tonight. I'm so proud of myself. Honestly, I think I like art. I can't believe I just did that. I have a phone full of quotes that I've collected all year, and it makes you cry, because in all of the different things that we do, different things spark something special in different kids. For somebody it's cooking, for somebody it's art, for somebody it's seeing the ocean for the first time. But just asking them one question, how did Bridge help you this year? These are some of the things they told me. Bridge taught me that problems are not really as big as I thought. It helped me with teamwork skills. I've learned to not be disrespectful with my teachers. Bridge helped me feel more secure and calm. And with all the special things we did, I wouldn't have done those things on my own. I do better in a small class. I don't get as distracted. I got a lot of help from my teacher. This class kept me out of trouble. I could concentrate better in a small class. The views on the hikes will stay with me forever. I painted them. Bridge helped me the most in the beginning of the year because I'm very shy. I don't like to talk in big classes in front of people. Now I'm not so shy.
So once again, I'd like to thank the teachers, the students, our contract people, the Heart Spectrum, right? Heart Spectrum and Roots to Branches, who've also helped pull these programs together and give our students some amazing experiences. And the thing I've noticed most with our students is this program gets them involved in their school now. We have kids that are doing the track team. We have kids that build the compost bins. But they're coming back and they're being involved in their school, and that is a win for everyone. So this is a slide on just some GPA data for our cohorts. So we have cohort 1 and 2. Cohort 1 is our very first Bridge class, and Bridge started in the 2015-16 school year. So we looked at what they did in 7th grade, 8th grade, and now that they're 9th graders. So in 7th grade, our first cohort of Bridge students were just out in the general education population, and they had, and this is an accumulated grade point average for all 5 programs, a 1.66 GPA. When they moved to 8th grade and started as the first Bridge class, it went down by 1% to a 1.64 GPA. When they went to high school this year, where there are no current supports for our Bridge students, their GPAs dropped 20% to 1.31. Now we move to our second cohort. This is our second year of Bridge. Last year in 8th grade, our current Bridge students had a 1.77 GPA. This year, they have a 2.13, or an increase of 20% in their GPAs. So Bridge is working. This is the second year, and the teachers have worked hard to refine their programs and to work with their consultants, work with Kathy Coker and their school sites to really improve the program for the students. What it does tell us with this data, though, is that we need something at the high school level. So at the high school level, we did incorporate, you can go to that slide. We did incorporate the 3 small necessary schools, Mesa at Santa Rosa, Grace at Pioneer, and Mid-Rose at Elsie Allen, into the campus that they were housed on already. So they are now part of the school, and they can take part in some of the other courses that the comprehensive high school offered that their programs didn't offer before. One of the things that the small necessary schools was able to give was a 180 credit diploma. And we have allowed them to continue with the 180 diploma for any student who started the school year in one of the small necessary schools. And that will sunset in June of 2018. And then the rest of the students will need to earn the 220. What we hope to do is to develop a program that is for 9th through 12th graders and that we start catching students before they're so far behind. And next year, most of the high schools will be implementing a 10th grade program as we try and work out how we can best serve our 9th graders, because they come to us without failure. So we can't do credit recovery with them. So they're working on how we can provide 9th graders with opportunities and catch them when they fall. So one of the things that I will be using is Cyber High during the school day to start having students catch up on the credits rather than waiting until they're 100 credits behind and send them off to another alternative site.
Also, one of the other things we'll be able to utilize is Kathy Coker's relationships with the 8th graders that she currently has, and maybe do a little bit more of check-ins for the 9th graders for next year, just to make sure that they are continuing their growth.
And that, next steps, that's right. We do have next steps. So next steps, this is the first year we were able to gather some data, and so the teachers will be getting that data to look at what it says about their individual kids. So the data you saw is just a group shot of all 5 schools, and the teachers can look at their own students, and as you've heard before, they treat each student individually, so they can really look at the first student on their list and say, why did that happen? And try and figure out how to work with them. Then the other thing we've talked about is improving our articulation and collaboration between the middle schools and the high schools. We really feel the middle schools need to know what they're aiming for in the high school, and so talking to each other is a way to allow that to happen. And then, again, we want to have the expansion of the alternative education high school programs to include 9th graders. So that's our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. That was great. Do we have questions and comments from Warren? Yeah. Director Anderson?
This must have been a fun program to put together. It looks so fun and covers all the bases. Really neat. How many? I must have missed. I'm sorry. How many students are involved?
About 60.
60. Okay. And so when you talk about going to the high schools with a designated space, how do we accommodate that? Because I know a couple of our schools were capped, and how do we accommodate more kids?
Okay, so those students are going to their home school. So the students at Rincon will go to Maria Carrillo, the students at Slater will go to Montgomery,
So
etc.
are we getting more space at Carrillo?
No,
they'll be
they're part of their numbers already.
Okay, it's part of the numbers. Okay.
Right.
And similarly, since we're talking, having to cut sections, how are we financing adding this program?
We're not looking to adding that program necessarily, but trying to be able to support those 9th graders with prior relationships with sort of check-ins, and then utilizing some of the current existing, whether it's pull-out programs for study skills, and seeing how we can implement that.
Okay, do we have that at the high school?
We do.
Okay. All right.
So I'll be finding them and checking in with them, I hope.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Director Fong?
Really great work. This is necessary work and it's right work. But, okay, so how do we scale things up? Because there's more than 60 kids, right, in the district who need this, and that's maybe 30 in 7th grade. Does it start in 7th grade or 8th grade?
It can be either. It's mostly 8th graders. There are a couple of 7th graders in a few classes, but it's mostly 8th graders. With middle schools are 2 grades, so we don't start to figure out who the bridge kids are till midway through their 7th grade year.
So some of the sites have 7th graders and some don't. It just kind of depends. If we see a 7th grader that's really, really struggling by semester, when we finally get to figure them out and see who they are, they could be added to the bridge. We're trying to keep the bridge size low, but we start the year a little smaller with the knowledge that we probably will be adding, because we may have some 8th graders that we missed. Right now, we're all in the process of trying to figure out who to place in the bridge, so we'll be doing those placements, holding SSTs with the parents and the bridge teacher and the counselor and an administrator to recommend that they be placed in the bridge, but we'll be leaving the bridge sizes a little bit small so that we can ensure that we have room to put more in as we progress through, especially into that first grading period, those first 4 weeks, and then add 7th graders if we need to. But most of us have just primarily 8th graders.
So I want to remind all of us in our board that this was kind of an iteration and next steps of what we used to do with Lewis Opportunity School, which is no more. This is the next thing about how we bring kids and keep kids.
Right.
So I guess the question and the data, Ms. Fletcher, was astounding when you followed those ninth graders into high school with not so many supports back into the regular, and seeing that 2.1 GPA was amazing. So I'm really interested in your third bullet, expansion of alternative high school programs to include ninth graders. And so always we think how to scale things up and how do things are in the LCAP and how we do this. So looking forward to that.
We are too.
Anyone else? Well, thank you for your good report about this really important work, and you guys are doing a great job. I actually had the one question. Excuse me, one question about the group. Do the kids form a little community? Does it become a tight group in the Bridge?
They're like families. They really, really become a tight-knit little community and a little family. And that's why we do a lot of that team building and community building at the beginning of the year. We worked at Sonoma State in early November. So I think that really had a lot to do with it. We really did a lot this year.
Yeah, I was wondering if that would help the transition into high school in the same way that sort of like the CTE, tight CTE program kids do well because they sort of form a family. If there's some way that they can become a club or something where they just check in and create some accountability.
Kind of already trying to make some connections with some existing clubs at the high school.
Yeah. It sounds like great work. Thank you.
So I want to thank Kathy Coker. She's retired now, but really not, for coming on, and the middle school principals. 3 years ago when we talked about what do we do differently because Lewis really wasn't meeting our needs, and really there were maybe 20, 25 kids. So we have scaled. Now we're serving 60 to 75 students using the same resources we would have been using for Lewis for the bridge. So it isn't additional resources, it's those same resources. So I want to thank the administrators again for that, and the teachers, because I know how hard it is to bridge. Kathy informs me every other day, maybe every day.
I try to hold that.
With texts and photographs of everything that's going on, which I love.
I brought a sample student portfolio.
Oh, perfect.
I would say that all the teachers have really been working hard to have the students develop their own portfolios so they can look at their progress through the year.
Perfect.
It'll take you just a few minutes to glance through this. Is one from Cook.
Yeah. So, and Kathy's going to be with us again next year, so that's great. We're not going to let her go. But thank you for all the work. Thank you for
Thank
the
you for
dedication.
the opportunity. I absolutely love this.
Can't tell.
I'm trying to hold that.
Okay, we're going to take about 3 minutes. Real quick break. end of this long 3-minute break. We'll come back to order, and I keep getting kicked off the internet. F3, the Pioneer High School, I should have known, Pioneer High School lights.
Excuse me. Good evening, President Close, Superintendent Kitamura, and the Board of Education. Tonight we're here to give an update on the Pioneer Stadium Field Lights project, a project that has been talked about for years in this district and authorized to move forward during the 15-16 school year, and also part of the bond program that was approved in September of 2016. Tonight, to my far right, is Doug Hilberman with Axia Architects, who is the architect of record on this project. To my immediate right is Mike Braff, our Director of Facilities, who I will say is still a very, very welcome addition to the team, helping us push things forward. Tonight, we'll talk about where we're at in our next steps for this project and be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Mike.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Kitamura. I'd like to give you a brief background of the project. This project consists of stadium lighting, which includes 6 MUSCO lighting standards consisting of 20 lights on each of the home and visitor side. It also includes a PA and speaker system, which is 4 PA speakers mounted on a pole, light poles on the home side, along with 10 PA speakers mounted on the sound wall at the visitor side. The sound wall required by the environmental impact report is roughly 688 feet of sound wall on the south end of the field and 317 feet on the east side of the field, totaling roughly 1,000 feet. The wall is 12 feet high due to the elevations between the site and the homeowners. Site improvements, which were driven by the American Disabilities Act, includes repair of existing sidewalk to the west side of the tennis courts leading to the stadium. Concluding this project is partially owner furnished, contractor installed, which means the district will be direct purchasing the lighting and equipment, and a contractor will install as the awarded contract. This item was board approved at the last meeting to purchase from MUSCO Lighting Company. The balance of the work touched on previously once again includes site work, landscaping, PA speaker system, and concrete sound wall will be included in the awarded contractor's scope as well. The facilities department is looking forward to completing this project for the Pioneer site, and at this time I'm going to turn it over to Doug from Axia Architects to continue on with the remainder of the presentation.
Great, thank you, Mike, and thank you, members of the board. I actually ran across my retired partner, Bill Dodson, 2 days ago, and Bill was very excited because this project is about 1.5 decades in the works. I see a few nods of the head there. Yes, we've been tracking with the Boosters Club and the Pioneer staff for a number of years, so it's exciting to see it move forward. A key piece of this scope actually comes to responding to the CEQA document. And so this sound wall and the work of the mitigation around there, and then the improvements to the PA system are all tied to that CEQA document, which was essentially the public vetting of the project. And so the sound wall itself is a precast concrete wall. It's gone through the process with the neighbors' feedback in terms of selecting a sound wall model. The sound wall itself, the heights that were dictated in the CEQA model, occur on the neighbor's side of the fence, and in some cases we are as high as 3 feet worth of grade difference between the neighbor's side and the Pioneer side. So that starts to develop about a 12-foot high sound wall on the Pioneer side in some cases, We'll be stepping this wall up and down as those grades occur in between individual neighbor properties. So I'm going to run through just very briefly a couple of key items tied to the lighting, tied to the schedule, and then be available for questions. The Musco right now is provided a fair number of lights for the district. Musco has been selected by the board for this project, and that acquisition of the lighting has occurred through one of the state competitive programs. With that, we are now receiving engineering from Musco, and the DSA submission is scheduled for May 24th. We're right now about 80 to 90% complete with the construction documents. Based on that, in talking with the team here, the decision was to go out to bidding in June and get the contractor on board for the project, with the hopes that through our conversations with DSA, while we're projected on the schedule to come out of DSA with approval in late August, we're working on trying to pull that time frame into late July. If we do pull that time frame in, we want the contractor to be in a position to jump on the project. And so that, with that strategy, we've got the bidding going out in June. Let's see, next slide, please. One of the major things that has occurred in a positive light over the last decade and a half is that lighting technology has gotten phenomenally better. And so one of the things you see here are the LED light poles. And one of the things I would point your attention to is how dark everything else is except for the field. And so that is one of the things that I think really has been a positive in terms of the process through this project. With these LED lights, I think you will be able to very specifically focus that light energy on the field itself without a lot of draw delineating itself over into some of the neighboring yards. And we've done the photometric studies on those, and it really has done a very good job with 6 poles of isolating that light source. Next slide, please. The precast fence. The precast fence right now occurs basically around the stadium area itself. The decision, there has been review of extending that fence all the way along the north line and all the way along the east line. There are significant complications to extending it along the north line because there is now a retaining wall that currently exists up to about 4 to 5 feet when you start getting behind the baseball fields. And when we started considering the expense and the activity that would go along with re-supporting that, it was decided that we wanted to stay to the area that was specific to the CEQA document. Next slide, please. This is a sample of the precast fence. In the discussions with the neighbors, we brought forward various fence types, both wood fences, concrete fences, and a number of varieties within each of those. And the decision and the feedback that came from the community meetings was that they liked to go with a precast concrete fence. Primarily, it offers better acoustics, longer durability, and then the desire was to get something that was two-sided in the nature of the precasting, so that it was both aesthetically pleasing facing towards the neighbors and aesthetically pleasing facing towards the fields. Now, one thing that really did come up in regards to the fences was the question of what do you do with adjacent gates? Adjacent gates are occurring at all different levels, including levels that are off the ground by 1 to 2 feet. Some of the questions that came into that also had to do with accessibility, because the moment that the school district gets involved in the gates, then accessibility becomes a question mark. Unfortunately, but I think intelligently, the team decided that it was better, unfortunately, to close those gates and go ahead with the continuous fence across that portion, just because of the complications that it does present to the district if they start trying to address the gates. And I believe there were 4 to 6 older gates that occurred in that area. Otherwise, what's occurring on the neighbor's side in terms of neighborhood fences will stay on the neighbor's side, and the district fence will occur about 1 foot onto the district property. Next slide, please. So in regards to milestones coming ahead here, we've got the DSA submission occurring this month, and we are on target for that. We've got the bidding process occurring in June. We have the DSA approval. Again, we're targeting, based on standard DSA practice, about the third week in August, but we are working right now with various DSA members to try to pull that in. And we're looking, based on the board approval of the contract award, that's to be determined right now based on where we see the DSA approval and where the contractor quotes come in. Construction time frame is going to be about 2 to 3 months. We are currently working on strategies based on positions of the poles, where we can try to position the construction fencing so as to isolate the areas under construction, separate from the bleachers, the track, and the activities of the field. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, but let me hand it back over to Mike first.
I think Doug covered everything, unless there's any further questions from the board.
Doug, can you touch briefly on the ADA requirements and what needs to be done for compliance?
Please.
The accessibility requirements, as with any project going through DSA and quite frankly any construction project, there's a certain obligation also to accessibility improvements. And so what we've done is we have surveyed the accessible paths both to the home side bleachers, to the visitor side bleachers, and taken them out both to the parking lot and tying them back into the accessible routes within the schools. For the most part, the campus is looking very good in terms of accessibility out in those locations, but particularly those of you familiar with the campus, along the tennis courts, that section of concrete sidewalk that occurs through there has too much cross slope in certain sections, and then there are a couple of parking stalls that need to be brought up to current ADA standards. They were put in and improved at one point, but with the standards changing over the years, we need to readdress those. So there are a couple of isolated areas that we have in the documentation that will improve those to bring them up to current standards.
Thank you.
Director Christo.
Thank you. I have a few general questions I think that will be answerable. I did ask some questions that would be more appropriate in terms of somebody who had been in the district for 20 years or 15 years, but I think it's important maybe when we go through this in the future that all the board understands the history of our, how lights came about in our district, and I believe Pioneer now is the last high school to get its lights. And the best thing about this, I hate to say it, I know there are going to be a lot of good games played on that field at night, but the best thing for me is I won't get that same question at least once or twice a week now that I've gotten since I've been on the board. I don't believe that there is another high school that has, that abuts a residential the way Pioneer does. Is that correct? This is the only school that has immediate housing right next to the field. So we are building a wall that we don't have at any of the other schools.
That is correct.
Okay. I did mention the price on this because the original price that I recollect was in the $700,000 range, but the fence would surely, that and the sound system would make the difference in terms of the $2.2 million that we're looking at right now. And another question, we had a lot of residents come through that lived in the Pioneer area over a period of a few years while this is all getting going. I don't see anybody here tonight, so I guess the objections have been all allayed, is that correct? Is there any objections at all from the community regarding what we're doing?
We held a couple of community meetings, and I was very pleased they were well attended. I think in both cases we had the principal and vice principal helping with the outreach in the community there. And I think in direct answer to your question, I think a vast majority of those at the meetings were reasonably satisfied with the solutions that were being presented at the table. I think there will be some folks that just may have rethought their decision of living next to a high school, but I mean, I think there will always sometimes be, there will be proponents and opponents.
Okay, so you're saying currently there are some people that still have objections, or this is something that they'll become aware of once we start digging around?
I think it's one of those cases where the vast majority, I think, from the community meetings felt like the process ended up with a set of results that they were comfortable with.
Okay, fine, thank you. And I appreciate that because we had people who were very upset. And that, the fence seems like it might do pretty much what it's supposed to do, keep the sound away. So, thank you.
The admin had hand-delivered flyers to all of the homes. Any home that was around there, they hand-delivered flyers for the community meetings.
We also, if I could also add, we shared the photometric studies that Musco Lighting had done in regards to the lights, because I think one of the key concerns was the lighting itself, and it was I think a number of them were very pleased to see that the readings were around 0 or 0.1 or 0.2 by the time we were getting to the adjacent neighbors' properties, and that was even before a 12-foot fence was considered.
I did have one last question, I'm sorry. And another question to be answered, it's a bigger question, is how we financed each of the different schools, because it's kind of different for each place. And we started out, the idea at Piner was to have it was going to be Boosters Club, it was going to be private donations that were going to finance these lights. I know they went out for a couple of years to find financing, and they did develop, I think, an initial budget, but are we getting any private financing in this at all, or is this all bond money now? It's all bond money. Okay.
All bond money.
Okay, thank you.
Director Fong.
One of the first things I had to do as principal is make sure that the lights got turned on, and the brand new lights at the Montgomery Field went through the whole EIR, draft EIR, and Bill Sternus brought the whole school through that and the district through that. And two things that we missed: pathway lighting. So there's huge patches of dark going from the parking lot to the field. And it wasn't the light spillover. We had Musco lights there, very good. It was sound spillover. So I'm sure you talked about that in the EIR. But I'm just wondering if there's pathway lighting. Thank you.
That was a yes.
Yeah, thanks for the report. I went to one of those community meetings, and like you said, it was very well attended, and I was really impressed with with the turnout, number one, with number two, that you weren't just talking to everybody, but you gave people really good opportunities for feedback and gave them lots of options, and these were definitely solutions that were bought into and suggested by or weighed in on by the community, and I thought that was a really impressive process, and also very efficient, one of the more efficient community meetings that I have been to, so it was a good job. All right.
I'll move F3.
Second.
It's just a discussion item. But I'm glad to know that you would.
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, I thought that was an action item.
I was following you, Ron.
It's okay, it's getting late, yeah.
It is good. Okay, so we're going to move on to an action item, F4, resolution to surrender for Abraxas to charter school.
Good evening. Tonight in front of you is the resolution to surrender the Abraxas Charter School, and with me is Sylvie Vatnell from CHD. Their board of directors did take unanimous action to close not only the charter school but also the residential treatment center. And so as part of the Ed Code, you do have to take the resolution and take action on that to be able to formally close it and let the California Department of Education know. So I return it back to the board. And thanks, Sylvie, for being here tonight.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion to accept item F4. Second.
Motion by Director Pugh, seconded by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh? Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Board members, I'm bringing to you item F5 tonight as an action item. President Close, members of the board, Ms. Kitamura. It is an interagency agreement that codifies some changes in administrative regulations that required the Department of Family Services to negotiate with all local education agencies in the county, rates and process to negotiate for transportation of foster students. This is a master agreement that was negotiated with Schools, College, and Legal and the our County Department of Family Services, and all agencies in the month of May are supposed to take this to the school board for approval countywide. And so with that, if there's any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to move item F5.
Second.
Moved by Director Pugh, seconded by Director Christoph. Roll call vote, please.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Okay, motion carries, which brings us to our last item, F6, which is an action item on Board of Education elections bylaws, and we're looking just at the provisions that we discussed in our last meeting and had some amendments to. Does anyone have any questions or comments about these? Are we? Or does staff have these? I'm sorry.
Somebody, but yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, this was bringing back this, yeah, this is just bringing, I'm sorry, 99922A back to you for the revision that was stated at the previous meeting. You passed all the other bylaws, except for this one. Yeah, no presentation.
Comments, questions, motion? Director Pugh.
Well, it requires a discussion of whether we're doing option 1 or option 2.
Well, it doesn't necessarily, it could just require a motion.
A motion to include option 1, or I'm confused?
We could discuss it. You could propose a choice, either way. But I am looking for, this is opportunity for discussion. Does anyone have anything to say, or?
I'm sorry. We're going to discuss whether we want option 1 or option 2. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
This is the time.
And I'd like a clarification on option 1, because we did talk about this. We're talking about paying for the candidate statements. With the language that's there, the implication is, and I was incorrect when I spoke last time about it, it's not 400 and 800 words, it's 200 or 400 words. And I would be in support of the latter, the longer the amount of text, and both in English and Spanish. So this option 1 would provide for that, is that correct?
That is correct. We took all the parameters off of it.
Okay, so if somebody elected to do a 400-word candidate statement, we would pay for it in English and in Spanish.
If that is what the board so chooses.
I would support that.
Director Fong.
If we look at option 1, I'm going to read it. In order to help defray the cost of campaigning for the board, the district shall pay the cost of printing, handling, translating, and mailing candidate statements. Is that what you're talking about? If we're thinking about the county, are we thinking about the county booklet that comes out with the candidate statement in it? So does that, we're not mailing anything, right? The county's mailing it.
Right.
So when we pay the county, that includes the mailing of the packet, and so we're not going to be, I want to be clear.
We defray the costs associated with all these functions that are handled by the county.
So maybe it should be clear about handled by the county, because that's just not clear enough there.
Well, I think that, though, that's encompassed in the cited elections code, that's a county, that's part of the county ballot statement.
Okay.
But you could just omit everything in between cost and statements, and candidate. So it says no part of the cost or cost of candidate statements filed pursuant to Elections Code 13307 to deal with any misunderstanding.
Because, you know, we're also looking at flyers that we send out or candidates send out, and let's not get confused.
But this is candidate statement filed. This is strictly
Filed.
about, whoops, this is strictly about the candidate statement filed.
Okay, so
pursuant
so
to
the wording
election
is
code,
filed pursuant to Elections Code.
which is to the county,
Okay. All right.
or the
That's good.
voters registration.
Got it.
Right?
So I actually, and now I think there's some confusion. I don't think in option 1 or option 2, that's just dealing with the pay structure of this. And then below that is already fixed. Is that not right? So starting with on the 125th day, that would flow from the end of option 1 or the end of option 2.
Correct.
That's correct.
As with the 200 words.
As with the 200 words. So actually, we're not talking about some unlimited words or 200 or 400 words. I actually don't support 400 words, not because I don't think people have 400 words to say that are relevant to this, but because I want people to, read them. I think I want everyone to read them, and the longer they are, I feel like the less likely that's going to happen, particularly when ballots are long. But I don't think that's actually part of the, so to be clear, my understanding is that what we're choosing between is option 1 and option 2 run from, or one paragraph, and then everything else is part of the policy that has already been adopted.
But if you look at option 2, number 2, okay, look under option 2. Sorry, no one else can see this probably. Number 2, whether the district or the candidate is to pay for the publication of a statement or qualifications pursuant. So what does that mean?
That's under option 2. So if you don't choose option 2, none of that's in there.
I think that I think the intent is the important thing. And I think the first option is pretty general and allows us to, to do 200, 400 words Spanish and English. And I think the important thing is that if anybody on the board objects to that, then we just need to talk about it.
We agree, I think we are agreeing, did we vote on this already, that we were going to help provide equity by paying for it, period.
Yeah, I think the question is 200 and 400.
So let's break this down.
But let me look at that.
Just in terms, like a show of hands. Does everyone here support the district paying for the statement of qualification, or the candidate statements?
Yes and no.
Director Pugh, please explain your yes and no.
Well,
Elaborate.
option 1 is the district pays the
Yes.
fees that are normally associated with running from a candidate. Option 2, we don't do that.
Okay.
We don't pay. Option 1 is a really huge gift, if you think about it. Whether it's 200 or 400 words, but it's a significant expense that the district is going to absorb to have a person run for office. And to me, it's a gift. It's a huge benefit. I would like to see what we would get in return to that benefit. Like, for example, one of the great equalizers of elections are when you have a situation where you have a person that spends a huge amount of money on a campaign where other people cannot afford to do that. I would think that if for me, if we went with option 1, I think it should be with the understanding that we're going to limit campaign donations or something of that nature to get something back from that wonderful gift that we're giving. Because this is not $100 or $200. This is thousands of dollars per candidate, of which you could have 20 running. Not that we would, but you could. You don't know. And I would think that you'd want to have an assurance that if you're willing to have us pay for this, that there's a certain standard. that'll be created. Like, for example, we wouldn't really want to have the district paying for a statement that slanders people or says terrible things, because people can do that. And so I think there should be some quid pro quo, something that we get back for providing this wonderful opportunity to the citizens of Santa Rosa, which means that we might have some campaign rules.
Well, I think there actually are very strict guidelines about what can go in the voter pamphlet, and you can't really say things about other people. But,
Well, it's happened.
well, maybe they're more strict about it. I know they have
I hope
pretty
so.
strict guidelines about that. I think that's a good, I mean, every time we talk about this, I say we should have a whole board item to talk about how do we increase the number of people running and improve the, diversity of people running, and or increase the diversity of people running and all that, and look at a whole comprehensive program. What are all the different things we can do? So I'd be very open to having that conversation, but I wouldn't be open to having that like one term in isolation discussed in as like a quid pro quo with deciding between option 1 and option 2 right now. So if we want to have a greater conversation about all the ways we could improve the numbers and increase the diversity of candidates, then I think that's a whole separate issue. And if we want to kick this out until that time, then there's no reason, we don't have an election coming up, there's no reason we can't do that.
Because also in here is campaign conduct. So you could talk about some things, and if we want to wait on this, have it come back up to be an item.
Because we could talk about contribution limits like they have in city council. Ron, I'm sorry, you've had your hand up for a bit.
Oh, that's okay. I don't want to cut you off here. This is a very important topic, because I think we're starting down a road that we need to go down in terms of how much are we willing to do to increase the pool of candidates out there, increase the diversity in our very diverse community. And I would say I would take a leap of faith here. We can talk about, there's a lot to talk about, in terms of public financing of the campaigns, what else we can do to incentivize people who normally don't have a chance to run for the board. But I think if we start here and say in good faith, do our workshop like we did before. If you want to run for the board, this is what it's going to take, and this is what the job is like. There may be some people that are not serious. If it doesn't work out for us, we can change it. But I would say at this point, let's take a leap and see if it does make a difference in terms of who steps forward to run for the board. We've had elections in the past, not the recent past, where people had to go drag somebody to come run for the board. And there's some districts that still have to do that. But what we need to do is take that leap to try and get people from the west side of town to step up and run for the board. We just have certain groups that are not represented. We have certain areas in the city that are not represented. And I would say if we do this tonight, it's a first step. And then our conversation needs to continue on in terms of what we can do.
And when you say do this, you're saying because you're advocating for option 1 and getting that done tonight.
Yeah, advocating for option 1 just because it's simple, and if it doesn't work out, we can change it.
Director Beal.
Option 1 would be fine with me. I just think we need to get a return on the investment that we're going to provide the community, and I think that's reasonable. You also need to think about, when you talk about diversity of the board, there's geographic diversity, there's socioeconomic diversity, all kinds of diversities. And we haven't given up on the issue of district elections. I mean, that's still working its way through our process. And if you overlay that on top of this, then you're going to have people from be represented from different parts of our community that have never had the opportunity before. This will even enhance that. So I'm comfortable with us picking it up. I just wish we could have some kind of campaign reform, if you will, or something a little bit more, just so that we just don't have, we can help equalize that, keep it fair.
Well, the other thing that you CSBA guys can do is be lobbying for maybe that there's some better stipend for service, and even on just a going forward or on an as-needed basis or something like that, because I think that's part of the problem, is you get people who are self-employed or independently wealthy or retired or, you know, have partners who make enough money to support them, or it's just a limited number of people who can say, I'm going to take off work a lot, or at a certain time each day, and who actually have the time and can afford to commit. I think it's that serving, the cost of serving is a bigger barrier than the cost of running. But that's state law, so. Anyway, so do we want to kick this to a different agenda item for a broader conversation, or does someone want to make a motion?
Can I move that we move forward with option 1, our first step?
I will second that.
So we have a motion by Director Fong and a second by Director Sheffield.
Director Fong?
Aye.
Director Sheffield?
Aye.
Director Christoph?
Aye.
Director Pugh?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
President Close?
Aye. Well, all right, that's how we got that done.
And then
Motion
I
carries.
would say,
No,
I
they're
would-
in. I'm sorry.
I would ask the board, because I heard potential another agenda item to bring back for discussion. So do I have direction?
I think this would be appropriate for a study session and to actually talk to, maybe look to see if there's somebody who can give us some guidance, maybe in another district, maybe CSBA could point us to someone who actually has increased, you know, the number of candidates, made their board elections more competitive, and increased the diversity of their board using things additional to complying with the law with respect to district elections. Because I think we've all expressed one time or another that we would be interested in doing more. So that seems like more like a study session kind of thing to me.
I agree. I think we should participate in that discussion. That's a big shift in the district. I think that's worth it, the time and effort to do that. It'd also be good, since the city council does have limits, as I recall, to their elections, it'd be nice to have a representative from the city share what they do and what problems it may cause or what problems it doesn't cause, because they would have history and experience on that.
All right. Well, with that, then we'll adjourn. Thank you.